Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jump Inside podcast. And today, what we're going to be talking about is the game Starfield. I am so excited to see if this game lives up to its expectation. Because if it does, if it lives up to its expectations, I am so looking forward to everything that this game is going to bring. But that's the question. Is it going to live up to its expectations? Now, we're going to dig into this game. I've brought two of my lovely discussion friends along that love also talking about video games. Very passionate. We've got Blue Fox and Camzoid in the chat with us.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Hey, good to be back.
And we're going to be heavily pushing out some questions exactly about what we think about this game. Is it gonna be big? Camzoid, Blue Fox, this game states 1,000 planets. It looks like it possibly states even more than 1,000 planets. What do you guys think about this?
Well, it's certainly a premise to have, which in one hand it's amazing, but also concerning, because players always desire to have quality over quantity. So bragging about the quantity can be good if it's followed up by quality. So it's are these 1,000 planets gonna be empty lands, deserts, or are they gonna be exciting places to visit? That's we can only find out when the game releases.
Totally agree with what you said. I don't know if there's 1,000 planets. I wouldn't say that's impossible, but also wouldn't say that it's possible as well. Perhaps maybe some, as Blue Fox said, perhaps some planets are empty, perhaps they're not even inhabited at all, or perhaps some planets are different basically because of color, that's it. So even some planets could be just copy and paste from others. If they really did 1,000 planets and most of them are empty and just with few differences, I would probably personally think that if they did only a few little number of planets with so much in depth and detail and the environments and everything into these planets would have been much better than just to hype and then make this big game as big as possible with 1,000 planets. So I hope and I pray, but I don't know if it's gonna be true, that there isn't 1,000 planets and there's only, let's say, 100 planets, and little by little they keep updating the game with DLCs or patches or whatever by adding more planets. I think like that it works better.
Okay. Blue Fox, this game has the planet Alpha Centauri in it. Are you familiar with Alpha Centauri?
I've never been, I must admit, but jokes aside a little bit. I believe it's the closest star system in the galaxy to us.
Yes, that is correct. And the best part about that planet is it can hold life on it.
Oh, exciting.
So what do we think about the realism of them adding in actual star systems that actually exist?
Well, from my understanding, the developers have stated that the game is sci-fi. Well, I mean, this is of course evident by the game itself, but it's a realism sci-fi, so something that is more credible. So, you have games like The Outer Worlds, which, they are sci-fi and they like the fact that they are sci-fi. They make it quite evident that it's a bit silly, but also very creative. While Starfield wants to be a bit more realistic. So I would imagine the developers would try to, combine elements of things that we have discovered in real life and put it in the game. How realistic? Of course, we cannot know. It's set in the far future, so they will take some liberties over technology and transportation and whatnot. So, galaxies are quite year lights far away. So I believe they will make that, of course, much shorter in the video game. But it would be still interesting to see how much the developers care about the realism in the game.
Okay. And then Camzoid, here's also another question that I was just wondering. I don't know. I can't picture seeing actual aliens on in the game, except for like maybe some creatures on different planets. What's the necessary of having aliens in a space game? Is that necessary, or do you think they can get away without it?
I think it's necessary in terms of creativity. Like, think about it. let's ask ourselves this mysterious question. Like, do you believe,
Yep.
comedically, let's go. Do you believe that there's only the human race? And when you're making a game, do you want only to interact with just humans? Don't you like want to see some other creatures who speak different language, and you have to like, let's say, find a scientist who create, let's say, a system that can be able to allow you to understand these creatures what they are saying. Like, if they are trying to make a huge, big sci-fi game, then they should go all out. They should make some different kind of species, kind of like what No Man's Sky did. So I do believe that I think it will be very cool and creative if they actually make the different kind of aliens inhabiting these planets, and to see some different kinds of civilization within these planets. So yeah, I do believe it's necessary. Sure, they can make the game without them, but it feels like it's missing out a few things, you know.
I mean, when it comes to space games and futuristic things, and you're going out of space here, I think for me personally, I like the requirement of, if you're gonna add in aliens to a space game, I mean, maybe there's a reason why aliens aren't in this game, or maybe this could be like First Contact. What this story could be about First Contact with an alien race. So that could be a thing. I mean, to be honest, my only thing about this, if there's no aliens in this could be very much following the Lost in Space series, where they go off and they find these planets, but there's not really any aliens in these things. There's robots in them, but there's not proper aliens in them just yet. So that could be somewhat of a factor, and it's still early days exploring. But I do like games that have a sense of aliens, but they're just normal aliens. So, for example, like Mass Effect, you'll just like see some aliens just wander around the world, because aliens are just normal. Aliens are just like us. They're just different. They just look different, but they're exactly the same.
A different type of civilization, like humans living in a different planet, but literally just different species, something like that. You want to see something different.
You could be a human. You could explore their planet.
Yeah.
You could just go, this is the alien planet. That's normal, and it's just normal because it's the future, and you're used to it. So yeah, no, that's definitely a thing that I definitely consider. Blue Fox, favorite past Bethesda game?
This is a bit of a tricky question to answer, because one thing is Bethesda published and one thing is Bethesda developed. So if I would go with Bethesda developed,
okay, and I think we have to go with Fallout and Skyrim with this, because like there are Bethesda published games, but there are Bethesda created games, and I'm going with Bethesda created games.
Yes. So in that case, I would pick Fallout 3. It's the game that brought me.
Why Fallout 3? Why did it bring you into the thing?
It's it's the first let's say RPG, Western RPG that I've played fully, that I've really dived into, that I've really explored. Not only just playing, for the completing the missions and the and finding all the unlockables. It was more of a game that I really lived. I really cared about the settlements I was visiting. I talked to the people. I've learned about the land. So it was quite an experience for me. It was a game I truly enjoyed. Then, of course, I played Fallout New Vegas, but that's made by Obsidian, so for that reason I'm not counting it now. And then Fallout 4 disappointed me in this regard. So, and Skyrim, I had a bit of a troublesome experience playing it in the first time, but for the PlayStation 3, I had a lot of crashes. It wasn't quite nice, so I kind of started with the wrong foot of the game, so I don't have a very good memory of it. But Fallout 3 truly ran surprisingly smooth to be a Bethesda game. So yes, it's the benchmark I would use for Bethesda. If they can make something that it's greater than Fallout 3, quality-wise, then I would be quite surprised, pleasantly surprised.
I'd say that I'd like that. I have to agree with you, but for my personal standard, it is the only Bethesda game in the Fallout series, and I'm not too sure about the Skyrim either. I'm not going all the way into the Skyrim depth of things, but for me in the Fallout series opinion, it's the one game, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's the one game where in the game you're not just trying to play a Fallout game, you're also trying to improve the wasteland that you're exploring in that game. Which, like, I mean, yeah, like in Fallout Vegas or Fallout 4, like even in Fallout 4, like after you've done the halfway point, the rest of it is more about like who's in charge of the wasteland. But like in that, or who's in charge of the Commonwealth, because it's Fallout 4. But like in Fallout 3, it's very much like, okay, how do we improve the wasteland? Come on, minds together now. Come on, everyone think, let's improve this area that we've been, building. Let's make this better. And I absolutely love that. And I've been playing it recently, just to experience some stuff. I love story in video games. Just to bring me up to aware of that. And one of the things I really like about stories is when they do the loop back effect. So, Blue Fox, you remember right at the end of Fallout 3, that point when you've got to like punch in those digit numbers, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. I
Let's
like
Vega for no
how the fact that those numbers that you punch in, you've been reminded, like, nothing actually physically tells you to put those numbers in, like, but, well, I think there is something that tells you to put those numbers in, but very clear, you've been reminded of those numbers throughout the whole series of every mission on that game. Like, even right at the beginning, when you're like a kid, you've been reminded of those numbers. And I just like, that's just a really awesome thing that they've done with the story. It's just like, it's 216, 216, 216. And then you get to the end, you're like, what are the numbers again? Oh yeah, 216, done. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love that.
Going back to Starfield itself. So yes, I think that Starfield has to have a benchmark Fallout 3 and of course Skyrim quality-wise. I've heard that Oblivion is quite a fantastic game, but I never had the pleasure to play it, so I'm not gonna comment too much.
How dare you?
I'm sorry, I just never.
It's not good enough.
It's time is limited in my agenda, and
please watch
Oblivion
Blue Fox's channel for the next few videos. He will be exploring Oblivion.
I wish. But still, but at the same time, we're speaking about old Bethesda games, so we do have to speak about competitive games. So games that are on the same caliber as Starfield, and games that Starfield has to beat as well. We are talking about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We are talking about God of War Ragnarok. We're speaking about The Ring. They are definitely, the competition has raised quite a bit in the past 10 years. So. Only making a game that is slightly better than Skyrim will not do it in 2023.
Okay, alright. Kamazoid, your favorite Bethesda game?
Well, this is gonna come as a shock to you guys. Because I only played games that were created by other companies that work for Bethesda but published by Bethesda.
Yeah.
I haven't played any game that was surely created by Bethesda themselves, which means that I haven't played any of the Fallout games, nor Oblivion, nor Skyrim, nor any game created by Bethesda. So basically, if I manage to play Starfield, it will be my very first Bethesda game.
Oh, this is gonna be good. You need to check this game out. It's gonna be Okay. Opinion again. Okay, back to it. Conversation dialogue options, very important when it comes to choices making in games like Starfield. So it has to be very, very on point.
I think
Fallout 4, Blue Fox, you've played a bit of Fallout 4, yeah?
I have it.
And Kamazoid, have you ever played The Witcher? I imagine you played The Witcher. I'm not too sure.
No.
No, you haven't played The Witcher. Okay, right. Fallout 4, you've got talking in the dialogue option, and in Fallout 3, yeah, you've got the option to read it. Same with Skyrim, but your character doesn't physically talk. When you select a dialogue option and the character talks, which I imagine Starfield does. Is that a requirement in this game? Does your character need to talk? Do you think it's going to benefit if your character actually talks? Or do you voice, when you read it, your own character?
I think it's a benefit that your character would say the line that you picked. But for me, it doesn't
okay.
bother me if the major character say the lines that you picked or not. It doesn't bother me very much. But I do think that it's a benefit if he actually says any line that you pick in the dialogue. But one thing when it comes to like picking the choices in the dialogue, one thing that they have to make sure that every single choice you make in terms of what you say has to have meaning behind it. So basically, when you pick this choice in dialogue, it affects what's going to happen to, let's say, this certain character or in this mission. So I think that way you can offer some replay value, each choice given a different outcome. So I do hope that he actually make that every single choice has a purpose. So if you make this choice and choose this dialogue, pick this dialogue, perhaps it'll mean a different kind of ending for a certain character.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Blue Fox, your opinion on that?
I agree on the latter part of the statement. So yes, choices have to matter. I really hate it when they are very aesthetically. In Fallout 4, for instance, when you meet the Minutemen, doesn't matter what you say, the outcome is the same. And that thing doesn't bother you when you're playing, because of course you can only choose one thing while you're playing. But replaying the game and trying to be very different from your first run and leaves you to the same outcome, that really bugs you quite a lot. But regarding voice acting, I am actually against it. I believe that role-playing games can work and work better without it, because the character voice means that the character that you make is not yours. They have a tone, they have they have some characteristics that are pre-made for you. Well, when he does not talk, or she, if you make a female character, then you can really give it a personality of your own. You can use your imagination and say, yeah, my character is like a big buff man, and he speaks very, rudimentally, or maybe it's a sweet person and speaks in another way. It's like reading a book. There's, you have to fill the gaps with your imagination a little bit, especially in a role-playing game where you create your character, where you make your protagonist. Then it truly matters to make it as yours as possible. And voice acting in this regard, it can break a little bit. In games like The Witcher works because Geralt is a character, so he has a personality. Yeah. But in a game like Fallout 3, where you literally are born at the beginning of the game and you choose your name and you choose how to be, then yes, it's being silent can be actually a benefit.
It can be a benefit, I agree, because you can, you are that character. That character, when you talk those lines, you then start imagining that character and your voice are the same. You start going, okay, that's how my character sounds. It sounds like me because I'm the character. So that it has that element of RPG, whereas again, it's a bit more softer with Geralt in The Witcher, because Geralt is an already made character with an already distinct kind of like feel to him, and which is absolutely, which both games are spot on. So it kind of depends the angle they want to take with this. Yeah. Ooh. Choices. I remember my first choice when I was playing the first time I played like a video game, and I think that kind of like summed up kind of like what I wanted choices to be in a video game. And there were two types. There was the one very early on in Fallout, where you went to the city and you either did a mission or you didn't do a mission, and it affected a little bit of the game. And there were bigger changes that affected a bit more of the game. But I think that Starfield has got a special opening gap to make a certain key point to their game that they might not have been able to do in the past, because this game involves traveling, and they could do this into their game, but I really want them to have this element. When I was playing the game Fable, which is also a very much choice game, I remember like having the choice of whether you play, like there was just a normal side mission, and the side mission was save the farm, and you could go and do the mission, save the farm, or you can just skip it and not save the farm, and that was kind of cool. But like if you save the farm then can start recovering, and then because you age up in that game, 10 years time, the farm is elegant and beautiful and looks lovely, and it's a lovely place to explore and find stuff. If you don't save the farm in 10 years time, it's covered in monsters and stuff like that. With a game set in space, and I don't know how the time passes in this game, but if you added in an element of your character starts off young and then maybe gets older throughout the gameplay, I'm not quite sure if that's an element they'd add. I don't think it would, but they might. You could add in that element of progression, so you could like donate money to civilization, come back there later in the game, and it's flourishing with loads of stuff. I think that's definitely a system. Speaking though of settlement, Blue Fox, what do you think about settlements in the game or house building in the game? Because it does show off an element of you get to create your own like home, but do you think that requires a settlement to be there, or do you think that's just you could just have your own home?
That's a tricky question to answer, of course, without playing the game. Not gonna lie, I'm not very a big fan of settlements in RPGs. I don't really see the point of them, in the sense of they're taking away parts of the game that I would be interested in, like having more enemies and having more areas to explore and whatnot.
And just to add in just want to add in, when you say you're not a big fan of settlements in the game, you mean very specific Fallout series, aren't you?
Yes, as well. Fallout 4 has introduced them, and I really enjoy it. But other titles, not many come to mind. But yes, in general, settlements and crafting are elements which I understand the appeal for some people, so I'm not against the idea of not having them. But at the same time, I really despise the reliance Fallout 4 put into settlements. If you wanted to do your main quest with the Minutemans, you had to do settlements. It wasn't an option, and that I really do not enjoy. I'm not, it's game work, so I'm not fully against it, but it's not my cup of tea. So, yes, that's my take on it.
I don't think they do this angle, but I think one of the best kind of more settlements I've ever seen in a video game is, I say best settlement. I'd like to say more like a town that you can, like a renovation. I'd say a renovation is probably the better way to go about it. Like, for example, do you know Assassin's Creed 2, you can like take charge of a city and rebuild the city and get paid from that and use that money to buy weapons. I kind of like that system. So I think if Bethesda keep go down the routes like Fallout 4 of you can build settlements and all that kind of stuff, I do also like the fact that there should be like a collection chest that you can have within that, and it earns money and earns shops. So you have this whole location where you
the problem
renovate.
The problem with this is that we do have to accommodate players that do not care about these mechanics. There are players who want to explore the galaxy. There are 1,000 planets and they don't care on settling in one. They want to explore them all.
Yeah.
So penalizing them to say, oh, you have not done the settlements, then you are gonna be poor and you will not be able to explore these places. Well, that's too bad. So they really have to find a finite balance, because in games like No Man's Sky, the game point is to make bases around the planets you explore, but that's not an RPG. Starfield is. So it's gonna be tricky to make everybody happy. And Bethesda, it doesn't have the best track record to achieve everything it promises, but companies may change. So let us hope.
Dear Bethesda, by the way, just saying, I know you're. I've seen the house building thing, and you get to create things on planets, and I love that. Yeah, but if you use this idea, you pay us money because we're coming up with the idea right now. Because I'm demanding over this. Let's just go with the fact that if you do a settlement, here's an idea from us: a settlement in space itself, with shops to explore, and you get to drive the ship. You get to explore the galaxy while taking your settlement with you. That's our idea. Remember that. Right, okay. Spaceships, interiors. That's got to be a key factor in this game. You need to have good spaceships with good interiors. Blue Fox, Camazoid, I want to ask you this question. Camazoid, Spaceship interiors. How big do they need to be? What do they need to look like? What is your what if you have a spaceship? What needs to be in it?
Everything that a spaceship needs. I think in terms of spaceship customization, I want it to look as real as possible, to be like to actually feel like the ship is real, and I hope that the customizations are inspired from many other sci-fi movies or games, to be able to make your ship as big as you want, and to put as many customizations as you want as well. I do remember on, I think, the Xbox event, they did say that you can make your ship either as fast as you want or as strong as you want in terms of weaponry or speed, like how many jets or engines you put on the ship to make it much more faster, or how many weapons and equipments you put on the ship to make it stronger when facing against enemies. So I do like that so much. In terms of interior, I hope to feel like whenever I'm inside this ship, I want it to feel real, to feel like I'm really inside of a spaceship. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Now I do get what you feel. I think my opinion on this, and I'm just gonna state it out there, is I agree with what you said, like with the weapons and all the systems. It needs to feel real and all that kind of stuff. But I want to add an element, and this is just a bonus for me. When you travel from system to system, I think that needs to take time. If you make that like a cutscene, it's going to feel a bit less real. So I do want to feel that part that I'm traveling across space, and it does take time to travel across space. Not to a certain realistic point, but to like a certain amount of realism, but not too much realism on that. And in that time, I want to be able to walk around my ship. Do you know what I want to do? I want to play pool or play chess while I'm traveling that speed. I want there to be some like arcade games throughout the ship, or like maybe some board games throughout the ship. I know. What are your opinions on that?
I don't know if you have played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, but when you travel
I haven't played that.
When you travel from one planet to another one, of course there is a loading screen, but rather than to have it just as a black screen and wait for 2 minutes, you can roam around the ship and you can talk to other characters or customize your gear. Usually the loading screen is not that fast, so you really barely have time to just chit-chat with your crewmates before actually arriving to the new planet. But I think that's a pretty cool detail that Bethesda can implement in their new game.
I like that, yeah. Kamazoid, any opinion?
I actually agree with what Blue Fox said, and you as well. I think that will actually be pretty cool.
Yeah.
As you are waiting until you reach your destination or you reach this planet, you're like you put the ship on autopilot, and you'll be able to get off the controls and explore the ship, change your equipment, power up, talk to the people who are on the ship as well, and do some other kind of activities until the ship reaches its destination. One thing that I don't know if they are actually going to implement, but I do feel it would really be cool is that you're the one who actually lands the ship on the planet. Let's say you find an area where you yourself land the ship, then you get off the ship and explore and do whatever is necessary for you to do. Instead of like, let's say it just blacks out to a cutscene and then it shows your character landed the ship and just you continue on playing. I want it to be as real as possible, so the player is the one who lands the ship. Let's say they make kind of a mechanics to slow down, use this, and the ship, press this, press that, to be able to land the ship without doing a lot of damage to it. Or if you make some mistakes and it lands but the ship takes some damage, you'll be able to go outside, fix it and stuff. That way it actually feels so real. It actually feels like I'm a spaceman or whatever, and I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I'm in control of the ship and everything. So I do hope that they actually implement that in the game, instead of it just blacks out and then a small cutscene, the character lands the ship and then blacks out again, and then you're out of the ship and just doing whatever you want.
Okay, so Blue Fox, compared to the space games, what's your take on like the space flying and the space controls of the aspect of the game? How smooth does it need to be, and how do you think the driving mechanics should work? Like, do you think it should be like first person, or do you think it should be third person? Like, what would you take from
that? I haven't played too many space games, so I don't have too big of a poll to compare it. But I've played Space Engineers, which allows you to drive your spaceship in first person, and it's a bit disorientating, especially in space, because you are in zero gravity, so it's as if diving inside water and going to all directions. So maybe they should allow you to change whenever you wish, because in third person, like in No Man's Sky, it's a little bit more feasible. In No Man's Sky, they do both. They do in the first person when you're in the planet, and then the third person when you're in space. So that could be a nice compromise. I think Elite Space does that too, so it will be interesting. Regarding space itself, then Starfield has to be very careful, because it tries to achieve something that no space game was able to achieve, which is to make an RPG fully set in space. Because other games have done it, like a Mass Effect, but that's more of a linear RPG. Here we're talking about open-ended, which Star Citizen has been trying to do for the past 10 years, and it's been failing at it. So it's Starfield really needs to be careful diving into this mission to make the very first open-ended RPG where you can be whomever you want. You can be a merchant, you can be an assassin, you can be a mercenary, you can be whomever. That's not been achieved before, not in this scale. So space, it's a very beautiful place to set your game. It's very appealing, but it's actually quite difficult. And that's the reason why we don't see too many space RPGs so often, in comparison to like medieval or set in modern times.
Kamazoid, when a spaceship lands on a planet, is that as far as I'm aware, they've taken that system out, so it's like a cutscene. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the game? Because, like, from my opinion, I like personally landing on a planet. Do you think that? So, what's your opinion take on that one?
It's to me, it's fine. It doesn't harm the game. It does harm the experience a bit, because it will be so much cooler if you actually land the ship. But it doesn't harm the game. Because there's still so many other things that the game has, or many other cool things that you can do. So I wouldn't say that it's gonna bother a lot of people if they actually don't implement that. If they just do a simple cutscene as you land. But I do think it's okay if they don't. But I do hope that they actually do, because that will give it a more feeling of realism in terms of ship controls and the way and the feeling of you traversing throughout space and landing on and going through each and every single planet, and also making the ship much more real in terms of damage, because I've seen in many other movies or series or any other stuff, when if you make a mistake while landing the ship, it can actually take some damage. And they'll have to go outside and repair the ship in order to fly it again. So that's if they actually implement that kind of stuff into the game, they'll actually make it feel so much real. But if they don't, and just transition from a cutscene to you coming out of the ship and stuff, it doesn't bother me, and I think it's not gonna bother a lot of people, because the game has so much other stuff that's gonna offer. So I think it's totally fine if they don't implement it.
Kamazoid, talking of damage there, if you're flying a spaceship in space and you're battling another spaceship, how do you think the damage should work? Do you think the damage should be like they're shooting your ship and like your spaceship overall takes damage, or maybe like, for example, because there is space building in the game where you build your spaceship, do you think like segments of your spaceship should like fly off, for example, like maybe they're specifically doing a lot more damage to the oxygen section of your ship? So for example, the oxygen thing goes offline, but your spaceship's more flyable. Something similar to FTL, but a bit more realism.
Absolutely like that. I think that in terms of taking damage through parts is much better than just the whole ship itself taking damage. Like, imagine you're fighting them other spaceships, and after you, let's say you survive this battle or you win this battle, they manage to damage your engine so much. So right now you're flying much more slower, or they manage to damage some of your, let's say, some of your weaponry. So you've lost some weapons, or they malfunctioned and can't work any longer. So you have to get off the ship, and perhaps get off the ship itself and fly around close to the ship in space and fix these machines or see the problem. So I do feel that parts taking damage is much better than the whole ship itself taking damage, because then it feels like much more real. Because if it feels like even if you survive the battle or you win, you still lost a bit of parts of your ship. So you need some to find some necessary equipment in order to fix this, or you take it to some station in order for them to fix this, to fix the problem that you have. Or if you are able, you can fix it by yourself. So I do think damaged parts is much better than the whole ship itself getting damaged. Perhaps even you might lose some parts in a battle. In the space battle, that's actually much more cooler, making you be more careful, and whenever you step into a fighting space, because you don't want to lose this, let's say, new part that you got on the ship.
Yeah.
What's your take on it, guys? You think the whole ship itself should take damage, or parts?
I like parts because I feel like that's more realistic. I feel like, you're like, for the game, like, I absolutely love FTL as a game. If something of my spaceship breaks, I have to go and repair it. For a game like Starfield, I like the fact that if something breaks on my spaceship, I'm gonna have to somehow repair it. But for things maybe like engines, maybe they're just damaged certain parts of the engines. Maybe I can get to a planet, and get it repaired, or like at a station or something. That's, those are things that I absolutely, completely agree with. You come out of a fight, I think it's better if they only, if they damage certain parts, other than, damaging the whole entire spaceship. I mean, if you've come out of a thing and they've damaged your oxygen, and it says there's there should be a timer on it. There should be 30 minutes until your oxygen runs out. Find a planet, otherwise you're gonna die. That would be kind of cool. I'd like that kind of system. Don't know if they're gonna add that to that point, but I feel like they may add stuff. I mean, they're a group of over 100 people. I mean, clearly someone has said this, right? That's something that someone would have said in a meeting. I'm hoping that's a thing. Anyway, all right. Moving on from that question, Blue Fox.
Well,
talking about
actually, I
go for it. Yeah.
I do not agree in the sense of I agree that it can be an interesting idea in concept, but in an RPG where you already have to do a lot of traveling and back and forward, and you have to talk to many NPCs, you have to grab the materials and whatnot. If you also have to think about your spaceship, and every time you land, you go a bit too fast, and it's like, oh, now I broke, the landing paddle. I have to, to go to this other planet and get it fixed, and then, oh, look, I've broke something else while fighting, dog fighting in space. It can be a bit of a hassle. So maybe there are some mechanics to punish your, if somebody's very immature and they just crash land every time. But I don't want them to be too pedantic with it. That makes the experience quite abhorrent to play, because then it's you don't get to enjoy the RPG part of the game. You don't get to roleplay. You get to make a simulation. So
right. So you're saying
that's the point. You're a space engineer, so it's your job to make a good spaceship and maintain it. But in an RPG, if you have to think of all of this, it might be bit too much. It's as if in The Witcher 3 you have to drink and eat, right? Because you're traveling around the land and you have to think about your food. It works in a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance because that's more of a quote-unquote simulation of the medieval times in Europe. But in some RPGs where the focus is more on the action and more on the storytelling, they don't have to go too overboard with this. But
where do you pull the brakes in an RPG? I get it, yeah. Okay, Blue Fox, on that whole segment of building the actual spaceship then, because there's in this game there's an element of building spaceships. how exactly, like, how much designing mechanics do you think this game's gonna have, and how much should it have?
Definitely, it's gonna have many design mechanics. We've seen that in the gameplay or like in the preview of the game. How much is too much? That I do not know, because again, I want to think about players who don't care too much about the crafting and they just want to fly. In that case, I would make the making of the ship easy enough to make it enjoyable and quick for players who don't care, but complex enough for people who do care and do want to go the extra mile and maybe recreate some iconic ships from Star Trek or Star Wars or other video games. So yeah, it's gonna be. I think Bethesda will find a good compromise. They're pretty good at giving players the options.
I think it depends where Bethesda wants to push your character. Where is your home base? Is it on a certain planet that you always keep returning to? Like for me, Megaton. Yeah, you remember Megaton?
Yes.
Like if that's your home, that's where your home is. You'd always return to Megaton. For me, I would always return to Megaton because that would be the home location for me. That would be my thing. So I think there's an element that Bethesda can go like, all right, where's your home location? And is it going to be a certain city that you have to keep returning to? Or could they make it so, design it as a quality that your spaceship, is the same as what Megaton was in Fallout 3? That's your home base. That's your home location. You're allowed to edit it. That is your settlement. That is the area that you keep going back to. So therefore that needs to be the most important part of the game. So you can choose how that looks like and how it represents what you're doing in the game.
Yes, it truly depends. Also depends on what type of character you make, because if you make a bounty hunter, you need to have a quick ship, right? If you are a merchant, then you need more of a cargo ship, right? So it's
if all these elements get added in, I'd love it.
So it depends.
But that makes it very more important that, as you said before, there may be certain areas of the ship, like maybe the ship should just take damage overall instead of certain elements. Because if you're doing a merchant ship and your cargo bay goes, well, you are screwed.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Oh. But then again, that also adds in the element. If they do that, that makes it's going to be completely. I don't want to go down the merchant route. I want to be a mercenary. Okay. Okay. Coming into the final question now, because we're coming close to the end of the podcast. I'm gonna go Blue Fox this one. Blue Fox DLC. We've seen a lot of it in Fallout 3, and we've seen a lot of it in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, all that kind of stuff. What should DLC be focused on when it comes to the game? Should it be focused on, like, do you want to see like more than what we had in Fallout 3 when it comes to main missions? Or did you like the aspect of there was downloads where you could do more material and like, you could download house mods and building mods?
Well, I hate to throw you a softball, but I'm against DLCs. So
You're against DLCs?
In the sense of, I really hope that Starfield isn't an incomplete game. It's like, oh, don't worry, guys, you'll get this in the new DLC. It's like, no, you buy a 7-year-old game, a very big RPG that it's supposed to have everything, and then you buy it and half the things are gonna be released eventually. Maybe you have to pay for them. I'm really against this idea. I'm not against the concept of DLC, but it really has to add something that the game didn't need when it was released. And Starfield has promised everything, so I don't really see an aspect that you could justify for it being released separately than in the base game. Why can this not have been in the base game? Why are you selling it?
Why couldn't this building mechanic be originally in the base game?
1,000 planets, so what else? Are they gonna add 1,000 more? It's I'm not too sure. I'm a bit, especially Bethesda. Bethesda is not quite good with DLCs. It's that's not a very good.
I don't know. I mean, okay, on Fallout 3. Yeah.
Fallout 3 has 5 DLCs. 3 of them are
very nice awful. DLCs as well. Very polished.
2 of them are awful. 2 of them are terrible, and one of them out of the 5 it's okay. But
would that be Broken Steel?
It's I don't remember the names, but yeah, it's the one that lets you play post game. That's the only DLC that's
Broken Steel. Yeah. We're both
the other 4 DLCs are mediocre at best. So. And goes the same with Skyrim and Fallout 4.
I like this I like the spaceship one.
Oh, that's the worst one. I'm sorry to break.
Really, you don't like that one? I think that just adds a. It twists it up and adds a bit of element of sci-fi. But one thing I like about the DLCs in Fallout 3 compared to Fallout 4, yeah, is if you're not fully aware, I like the pit is its own thing. We don't talk. You play Fallout 4 and you download all the DLCs. Just don't talk about the pit. You go there, you do the pit, but you don't talk about the pit. It doesn't really connect. Operation Anchorage, the spaceship, Broken Steel, and what's the other one? Point Lock. We don't talk about Point Lookout either. But those three, yeah,
No,
they all
very-
somewhat connect to each other.
Yeah, but they're all weak. Bethesda is not known for good DLC, so I'll
Blue
let
Fox,
Kamizo
I
answer this question.
absolutely agree with everything you said. In terms of DLC, it's not like I'm 100% against
okay.
them, but the way that many companies are implementing DLC nowadays, it's not the right way. DLCs are supposed to be kind of like expansions, something to give more into the game. So when you release a game, it should be released with everything, like 100%. The game should be released with you having everything, and then you work on DLC to add a few more things. Like some people would like to see more. So you basically want to give your whole product. Then, if you want to expand upon it, then you work on DLC. That's the true way for DLC. If they actually these 1,000 planets and you will be able to explore all of these, and then they release a few number of planets, and we forgot to tell you that the rest of the planets are DLCs and expansions and all of that. Then that will be the worst move that they actually commit. So I do hope. Hope. I'm going to ask. Are we like at the end of the podcast?
We're going to be very close to it, yeah. Go for it.
Okay, so I need to share this. Not many people know this, but Bethesda, they're on their biggest gamble in terms with Starfield. After their tremendous failure with Fallout 76, they're putting everything on Starfield itself. So if they actually release the game broken and missing out few things with many bugs, and it doesn't have 1,000 planets, then the game itself is gonna fall apart. And I don't want to suffer another Cyberpunk 2077 situation where the game itself got released, but it's so broken and missing so many features that it doesn't work. So you had to wait like 2 or 3 years and actually to get the full game. I don't want that. I don't want that to happen to Starfield. I don't want the same situation of Fallout 76. Believe it or not, Fallout 76 is actually playable nowadays. You can actually play the game and kinda have some fun with it. And I don't want that for Starfield. And I'm pretty sure none of the people want that. So I do hope and I pray that when Starfield releases, this is one of the major factors that they have to focus on. When Starfield releases on day one, it has to work fine. Not perfectly, but at least fine. Everything works fine. There isn't a lot of bugs or glitches that crash the game. There isn't any issues. You can actually buy the game itself, put it on your console, and just have a good time. We don't want any bugs or broken. We don't want any fake promises. Oh, don't worry, we'll fix it on the next patch. And then the patch itself is so heavy, it takes quite a long while for it to actually finish.
Yeah.
I hope that they release the game on day one and it actually works. And everything they said and promised is delivered. And then you can think about DLC. Because when people are enjoying the game and enjoying your product so much, they want to see more of it. That's how you implement DLC. When the people actually want to see more of your game.
I agree.
So I pray and hope. Bethesda is putting everything on Starfield. They are playing the gamble of their life. If they mess this up again, it's over for Bethesda. I think that they will suffer badly if Starfield doesn't succeed. So I hope that they know what they are doing. I wish them the absolute best, and I wish Starfield to be the greatest game ever. They need to know that in order for people to buy their game and to play it, it has to work on day one when they release it. So I hope that there aren't any problems with the game once it's released, and I hope that they deliver on their promises. Even if there isn't 1,000 planets, I still don't believe that. At least it works. I can play it. I can have fun. So I hope that Starfield actually the game that Todd Howard's talking about, and it's Bethesda's greatest comeback to be in Bethesda once again. So hope Starfield lives up to the hype.
Yeah. And I just want to add in again, everything you said I completely agree with, and the way you said about DLC, yeah, I completely agree. Either the DLC needs to be like, we're enjoying the game so much and we want to see more of it. That's when you should answer the call and go like, yeah, we have more, we've got DLC, and that's a good way of elementing it. The other way of elementing DLC would be to do it as GTA does it, where it's like the DLCs are free online. Play a game online, free DLCs, which is great. I don't like it when the game's incomplete and you need to pay for stuff to add more stuff in that should already be into the game, as Blue Fox just said. But remember, okay, that whole game, everything we've discussed, yeah, we're not the judge of this. Well, we are kind of the judge of this, but like, yeah, you know, the game makes the game, and it's up to us as the fans and the audience to opinionate what we like and what we don't like about the game. So if you're watching this video, just write a comment down below of what you think is the most important aspect of this game. I'd love to read every single opinionated or comment that you've put down. So if you are watching this video and you've come to the end and you're like, okay, yeah, sure, I have my own opinion of what I think about the game, write it down in the comments. We'd love to read it, because you're the boss. You are the boss of whether this game is successful, and you know, and we're part of that as well. So yeah, can't wait for this game to come out. It is going to be either a really good thing for Bethesda, or as Camzoid said, it's also a gamble. So yeah, can't wait to see if this game is going to live up to its expectations.
Time will tell.
Anyway, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I've been Seb. This has been Blue Fox.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's been Camzoid.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, again, please go check out their channels. Their links will be in the description below. They make some really awesome content. Yeah, that's pretty much the video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hey.